AITA for not contributing to my girlfriend's mortgage or moving back in. Last year, my girlfriend bought a house and I moved in with her. She has a 10-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. Things were going well at first, and I happily contributed to the household expenses even though my name wasn't on the mortgage. We didn't add me to the deed because my credit was poor at the time, plus I already own a home that I rent out. Her mortgage is about $5,000 a month. I was paying $2,000 monthly, which was the most I could afford because of loans, credit card debt, and other financial responsibilities. A few months in, she told me she was going to let her ex, the father of her daughter, move in to help with co-parenting. I wasn't thrilled, but I understood how important it was for their daughter to have stability. However, over time, it became obvious that her ex still had feelings for her. He acted overly familiar, like they were still in a relationship. It made me really uncomfortable, and I started feeling like a third wheel in my own home. She didn't want to kick him out because he helps a lot with their daughter. Eventually, for my own mental and emotional health, I decided to move out. Now she's upset that I won't move back in or keep contributing to the mortgage. I've told her I'm not comfortable living with her ex, and I don't think it's fair to keep financially supporting a home I don't have any ownership in, especially under these circumstances. I care about her and her daughter, but I also have to take care of my own financial and emotional well-being. So, AITA? AITB for breaking up with my ex over a shellfish allergy incident? So, I started seeing this girl about a month ago. We went on a few nice dinner dates, mostly at places where she could enjoy seafood. She loves it. I have a severe shellfish allergy, like the kind that sends me straight to the ER. But I didn't want to kill her vibe, so I just order something safe for me, like steak or a burger. She'd offer me bites sometimes, and I always declined, explaining that I was allergic. Everything was fine until a few weeks ago, when I caught the spring flu and was out of commission for a while. Last week, she called to check in and invited me over for dinner, saying she'd make her famous chicken Alfredo. I was finally starting to feel better, and I've had chicken Alfredo plenty of times without issues, so I said sure. Well, a few bites in, I noticed something tasted off. Then my throat started tightening. Fast. I asked her what she used in the sauce. That's when she told me she made it with shrimp oil. When she saw me gasping, it suddenly hit her. She had totally forgotten about my allergy. She called 911, and thankfully the paramedics arrived in time. I went into anaphylactic shock and had to spend a few days in the hospital for observation. I'm okay now, but honestly, I couldn't shake how unsafe and uneasy I felt after that. So I broke up with her. Now she's upset, crying to her family because she feels awful about it, which I don't doubt. But her brother messaged me saying it was just an accident, and that I was too harsh. Apparently, the whole family is now blaming me for not reminding her before dinner. I get that mistakes happen, but this wasn't like forgetting I don't like olives. This was life-threatening. I don't feel like I can trust someone who forgets something that important. So, ITB? AITA for always asking my daughter when she's going back to school every time she asks for money? My daughter dropped out of college after 2 years and is currently working as a barista. After leaving school, she moved in with her boyfriend, but they've been struggling financially. He works as a server, and their combined income doesn't go very far, especially here in Southern California. Over the past year, my daughter has asked me for financial help a few times. Every time she did, I'd ask her when she's planning to go back to school. At first, she'd say she was still figuring things out, but recently, she got upset and told my wife and me to stop asking and let her live her own life, that she's an adult now. I responded by saying, then go ahead and be an adult, and stop asking us for money. I told her that being an adult means taking responsibility. Since then, we haven't spoken. I understand that my question probably created pressure, but it's not like we were forcing her to go back to college or get a degree we chose for her. We've always told her we'd support her, financially and otherwise, if she wanted to return to college or even attend a trade school. Our hope has always been that she can get a better-paying job and build a stable life for herself. What makes this so frustrating for my wife and me is the backstory. We both grew up poor in developing countries, different parts of Southeast Asia, and our family struggled when we immigrated to the US. We waited until we were in our 30s and financially secure before having children, because we wanted to give them the opportunities we never had. To us, it feels like a slap in the face to see our daughter turn away from those opportunities, to struggle when there's a path to stability that we're offering to support her through. It's not that we don't love her or want to help, but it's hard to keep giving financial support when it feels like she's not meeting us halfway. So, AITA for always asking about school whenever she asks us for money? AITA for having my parents watch our son instead of my MIL. So, this past Saturday was my husband's birthday, and we had a whole day planned to celebrate, just the two of us. A few weeks ago, we asked my mother-in-law if she could watch our infant son overnight. She said yes, and the plan was for her to pick him up from our house. She lives just under an hour away, so it wasn't a huge ask. With that plan in place, we organized everything: lunch with friends, a movie, and dinner at 7 p.m. It was all timed around the idea that our son would be picked up. But then, Thursday night around 8 p.m., less than 48 hours before, she calls and asks, "What time are you dropping him off?" We were confused and reminded her that she had agreed to come pick him up. That's when she told us she'd been having car issues and didn't think we'd feel safe with her driving the baby. Honestly, we appreciated her being upfront about that. Safety comes first, always. That said, at that point, our day was already fully booked and we didn't have time to drive out and back. So we called my parents, who lived the same distance away, and they were happy to help. They came and picked him up, no problem. My husband even told his mom not to stress about it and that she could have him another weekend once her car was fixed. But she was furious. She hasn't spoken to us since. She told us we were being dramatic, and from the way she's acting, it seems like she's mostly mad at me. Apparently, she was already annoyed that I answered my husband's phone. He was literally right there, just busy, and the call was on speaker. To be honest, she's always been a little emotionally manipulative. She often guilt trips us and has this idea that we favor my parents because they see our son more. But the truth is, we give both sides equal chances. It just so happens that my parents are more available and willing to help when we need it. We weren't trying to exclude her or hurt her feelings. We just needed a backup plan that let us stick to plans we'd made weeks ago. So, AITA for not driving our son out to her and asking my parents for help instead? AITA for kicking out my girlfriend's friend after she insulted her for breastfeeding? I live with my girlfriend, Lily, not her real name, and our 3-month-old daughter. Lily is one of the kindest people I know, always thinking of others before herself. Last weekend, one of her old friends, Jenna, came over. They hadn't seen each other in a while. For context, I've never liked Jenna. She's one of those people who makes everything about herself. The kind who always has to dominate the conversation and stir up some kind of drama. Anyway, while I was in the kitchen getting us all something to drink, Lily started breastfeeding our baby in the living room. Totally normal, totally natural. But out of nowhere, I hear Jenna say, "That's gross. No one wants to see that." Like it was something inappropriate. Lily came into the kitchen, clearly upset and trying to continue feeding in private. She didn't say much, but I could tell she was shaken. I was furious. No one makes the mother of my child feel ashamed for feeding our baby, and especially not in our own home. I walked into the living room and found Jenna casually rummaging through our things. That was the last straw. I told her she needed to leave. She acted all confused and defensive, so I repeated myself, this time with less patience. I wasn't asking twice. She left. Later that night, she called Lily and started spinning the story, saying I threatened her, and that we were lucky she didn't call the cops. I took the phone, told her never to contact us again, and then blocked her. I don't regret it one bit. A baby needs to eat. A mom deserves to feel safe and supported when feeding her child. And if someone can't handle that, they don't belong in our lives. So, AITA? AITA for telling my friend her son's name isn't French? I'm originally from France, though I now live in Canada with my wife. One of my close friends here, Emma, has always been fascinated by all things French. My accent, culture, even my name. It's kind of a running theme with her. Recently, Emma had a baby boy. During her pregnancy, she told me she'd picked a beautiful French name for him and couldn't wait for me to hear it. I was curious but didn't press. A little while later, her husband privately told me the name. And honestly, it wasn't French. The first name was actually Italian, and the middle name had a spelling I've never seen used in France. I told him as much. He kind of sighed and said he'd tried telling her, but she wouldn't listen. When the baby was born, Emma made a big announcement with the name on a sign, saying it was inspired by me and my heritage. Her husband, looking visibly annoyed, asked her to stop calling it French, and I backed him up. I gently explained that the first name is actually Italian, and the middle name is a distinctly Americanized version of a French name, but not something anyone in France would actually use. She was clearly upset. She insisted it was French and said, French and Italian names are basically the same anyway. She accused me of being rude and ruining the moment, and now she's mad at both me and her husband. Some mutual friends think I was a jerk for correcting her, saying I should have just let her have her moment. But from my perspective, she was literally telling people the name was French because of me, and it just wasn't. I didn't want to be falsely credited for something that wasn't accurate. AITJ for breaking up with my girlfriend after I found a hidden camera in my apartment? So this happened recently. I was working from home when I noticed something weird behind one of the shelves in my apartment. I live alone, so I don't expect anything out of the ordinary in my place. But there it was, a tiny hidden camera. Naturally, I was freaked out. I pulled the footage. It had several clips of me just living my life. Working, watching TV, even singing to myself in the kitchen. Nothing scandalous. Just me being in my home. Only one person comes over regularly, my girlfriend. So I confronted her about it. After some pushing, she admitted she planted it. Her reason? She thought I was cheating. Apparently, I'd been acting distant. And she felt the need to see what I was up to. I was stunned. I told her that was a massive invasion of my privacy. There was no excuse for secretly filming someone in their own home. I broke up with her on the spot. She later told me I overreacted. That if I had nothing to hide, it shouldn't have been a big deal. Some mutual friends are split. Some think I should have talked it through instead of ending things right away. But to me, secretly installing a camera in someone's apartment crosses a line you don't come back from. So, Reddit. Am I the jerk? AITA for not stopping my little brother from humiliating our dad's husband on their wedding day? I went to my dad's wedding last weekend. He married Kevin, the guy he cheated on our mom with. I was 16 when it came out that Dad had been having an affair with Kevin for months. Mom was blindsided. It was messy, ugly, and it destroyed our family. My little brother, Sam, took it especially hard. He hasn't talked to Dad unless absolutely necessary, and he's never acknowledged Kevin. I've been more neutral, mostly for survival, because I still rely on Dad for help with school, rent, and other stuff. Anyway, Dad basically pressured both of us into being part of the wedding. Sam didn't even want to go, but our grandparents begged him, and he gave in. I should have known something was off when he got really quiet that morning. Here's what happened. Right before the ceremony, while everyone was getting ready, Sam offered to help Kevin with his tux jacket. Kevin handed it over while checking his phone. Sam disappeared for a few minutes, then came back acting totally normal. What none of us knew was that he had ordered a little container of itching powder online and had just rubbed it into the armpits and collar lining of Kevin's tux. Cut to the ceremony, Kevin starts fidgeting, then scratching. At first it was small movements, but by the time they got to the vows, he looked like he had fleas. He was tugging at his collar, rubbing his underarms, sweating like crazy and going red in the face. Guests started whispering. Our aunt asked if he was having some kind of allergic reaction. Dad looked completely confused. Kevin looked miserable. And Sam? Sam just sat there with the blonkiest expression I've ever seen. Kevin ended up rushing out before the ceremony was even finished. They had to pause everything for about 15 minutes while he changed into a backup suit. The photographer had to toss a bunch of pictures, and of course people started asking questions. Afterward, Dad pulled me aside and asked if I knew what happened. I said no because technically I didn't, but I had a pretty good idea. Sam confessed later and said, he didn't cry, but he'll remember it. That's enough. Now our dad isn't speaking to either of us. Kevin's family says we sabotaged their most important day. Our grandparents say we both owe them an apology. But I don't think I will. I didn't plan it. I didn't do it. But I also didn't stop it. So, ITA for just letting it happen? ITJ for saying no to my sister after she said no to me years ago? Back in 2019, I was really struggling. I had just lost my job. My car had broken down, and I was on the verge of eviction. I asked my sister, who was doing pretty well at the time, if she could loan me enough to cover 2 months' rent. I made it clear I wasn't asking for a handout. I fully intended to pay her back in installments. She flat out said no. Her reasoning was that she doesn't mix family and money. I respected her decision. It was her choice, but I won't lie, it hurt. I'm her sister, and I felt completely alone at one of the lowest points in my life. I ended up selling a bunch of my stuff and somehow made it through. Eventually, I got back on my feet. Fast forward to now. My sister's going through a tough time, her husband left, and she has 2 kids to care for. She called me and asked if I could help her cover rent and bills for the next couple of months. Almost the exact same situation I was in back then. I told her, I'm sorry, I really am, but I can't help. I didn't bring up what happened in 2019. I figured she'd remember. But she got upset and said I was being petty and holding a grudge. She said family is supposed to help each other when they can. Our mom is siding with her and telling me I'm being bitter. And now I'm torn. The truth is, I could help her. It wouldn't be easy, but I could manage it. But I can't stop thinking about how alone and rejected I felt when I was the one in need. Part of me feels like this is just karma. Another part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. So, ITJ for saying no now, after she once said no to me, got humiliated in front of the class. Waited weeks to return the favor. We were never friends, just classmates who sat near each other, swapped jokes when it suited her, and ignored each other the rest of the time. One day in class, I said something dumb, not even trying to be funny, just being honest, and she saw an opening. Loud voice, smug grin, whole class watching. Oh my God, are you actually that stupid? Laughter followed. All eyes on me. The teacher didn't even react. I just laughed it off. But inside, that stung. You know those moments you replay later thinking I should have said something back? I didn't. Instead, I waited. A couple weeks later, we were assigned a group project. She ended up in mine, not her first choice. She didn't do much but figured she could coast off the rest of us. When it came time to present, I gave the teacher the version I finished, minus her part. I told him she didn't contribute and backed it up with proof. She looked confused when she wasn't called up. Even more confused when she saw she'd been graded separately. And probably the most confused when she asked if I said anything and I replied, "Didn't think you wanted my input. You said I was stupid. Remember? I didn't make a scene. Didn't raise my voice. But I still heard someone from the back go, damn." She never spoke to me again. I asked an entitled coworker to say please when asking me to move my bag. She cried. Let's call her B. B is an older coworker who's been at our workplace longer than pretty much anyone else. And because of that, she acts like she runs the place. She never admits when she's wrong, even when it's obvious. She talks over people, bosses them around, and has never heard of the phrase, "Excuse me." If you're in her way, she just says, "Move," loud and firm. She even talks to our boss like that. I have no idea how she's still employed. The kicker? Everyone loves her. Seriously. I've tried venting about her before and people either say, yeah, she's bossy but she means well, or they straight up tell me not to disrespect her. It's like she has the entire office under a spell, and she's not even trying to be charming. Anyway, the other day, I was grabbing my water bottle out of my backpack. It was on the floor, not in anyone's way. B walks over and, without hesitation, demands, "Move your bag." "No, please. No, excuse me." Just barking orders like always. I turned to her and said, as respectfully as I could, but I'll admit, with a dash of sarcasm, "Hey, crazy concept. How about you treat me with the same respect I treat you with?" She didn't even acknowledge it. Just repeated, more firmly, "Move your bag." So I said, "Ask nicely." And then, no joke, this grown woman who's easily 3 times my age starts crying. Like, full-on tears. Someone even came over and hugged her. I was so stunned I just walked to the bathroom to process what the hell had just happened. No, I didn't move my bag. Later, I stopped by HR and told them the whole story. They said they'd have a word with her. When I came back, she had stuffed my backpack into a locker. Now I'm worried. What did she say to the person who comforted her? Is she trying to spin some story? Could she actually get people to turn on me? Or worse, get me fired? Just for asking her to say please? To be fair, my supervisors haven't taken any real sides, but they did tell me I had every right to ask her to be respectful. So I'm trying not to spiral, but I can't shake the feeling that I might be the only one in the office not worshiping at the altar of her yellow-toenailed feet, and that could come back to bite me. ITA for telling my homeless brother he can't shower at my house anymore? I know how this sounds. Probably makes me seem like the bad guy. My brother's been having a rough time. He lost his job, his apartment, and he's been living in his car for a couple of months now. I let him use my place a few times a week so he could shower, clean up, and do laundry. I even gave him food to take with him when I could. But the problem is, every time he came over, he'd leave the bathroom a mess. Wet towels on the floor, hair in the sink, and sometimes even toothpaste splattered on the mirror. I asked him nicely more than once to clean up after himself. He'd always say something like, "Yeah, sorry, I'm just tired," and then keep doing the same thing. Last week was the final straw. I came home from work and found out he'd invited 2 of his buddies over without asking me. They were hanging out in my living room, smoking, blasting music, and one of them even used my razor to shave his face. I lost it. I told my brother he'd completely disrespected my space, and until he could follow basic rules, he wasn't welcome anymore, not even just to shower. Now my mom's blowing up my phone, calling me heartless and reminding me that he's family. And this is only temporary. My friends are split. Some say I should be more compassionate. Others think I did the right thing. So Reddit AITA for cutting off my brother from using my shower?